My ex-girlfriend passed, her family barely contacts me that she had a baby. There's no doubt her son is 100% mine because we had a paternity test just to be sure. Anyways, I, 27M, barely found this out weeks ago. Only reason we broke up is because I had to move back across the country last year to help my family after my dad died from COVID. Didn't want to do the long distance since I was gonna stay there working for a bit. She never told me anything. Her mom says she didn't want me to worry about her all the way over there when my dad's family needed me more, and she was gonna tell me as soon as I was back. I moved back like a month ago, only now I'm finding out not only that I lost her, they said there was complications when she gave birth, but we have a baby boy. Feeling a mix of stuff, and worst part is I can't talk to her about because I wish she'd told me. Her mom says they've barely been managing with him. They need help with him, and so that's why she reached out to me once they learned I was back. Of course he's mine, that's my responsibility. Still, it's hard not to panic. I'm still in shock about her death. Now I've got a son I need to take care of. Didn't even get to be part of the first 2 months of his life. My family doesn't know about him yet. Hell, I still haven't met him yet. Her mom's only sent me pics. He's beautiful. I don't know how I'm gonna do this. I'm scared, sad, and pissed off for some reason. I'm nervous as fuck about meeting him or how this is gonna go. Her parents will be around to help, but I know he'll be with me full time for the most part. Really, any advice I'll really appreciate. From new parents or anyone, honestly. What the hell do I do about all these new changes? Comments. Number 1, by single.artist, I raised my son by myself. His mother is still alive, I think. We haven't heard from her in 12 years, she just didn't want him. Being a single dad is hard, but it is worth it. My son is now 24. He graduated from Purdue last year with a computer science degree. I've been a professional artist for 27 years. My son works as a software engineer, but he has also been a professional artist for the last 5 years. He has actually made more this year as an artist than his regular job pays. Get your son, take care of him, no matter what sacrifices you have to make. It will pay off in the end. Encourage him to pursue his interests. I bought him a laptop for his 12th birthday. He and a couple of his friends began teaching themselves programming languages and creative things like 3D modeled illustration and stop-motion animation. I gave him one of my professional digital SLR cameras to use for that. When he began high school, I surprised him with almost $2,000 to buy components to build a high-end desktop computer. He'd wanted to build his own computer for a while, but money had been tight. By the time he graduated from high school, he had been offered a full academic scholarship to study at Purdue. While he was in school, his 3D illustrations of spacecraft began attracting attention from aerospace companies, and he began doing them professionally. I had a stroke when my son was in school. I've had serious health issues all of my life, and was only 37 when that happened. I didn't want him working while he was studying, so I sold off most of my photo equipment to keep the bills paid. I'm 45 now and still in poor health. When Mac graduated and found his job, he told me to retire from doing commercial photography and just do my fine art photography. He bought a house for us and takes care of my needs. I'm gradually rebuilding my collection of cameras and lenses I had to sell. He's making over $100,000 a year at 24. Sad thing is that his mother has no idea what a wonderful young man he's grown to be. Your situation is different since your son's mother died, but your son needs you. A father is the most important person in a young man's life. Before I had the stroke, I had been a high school teacher for a short time. Any teacher can tell you that having a father is the single most important factor in whether a boy does well in life or not. It's more important than how much money the family has, or anything else. I had a number of boys in my classes being raised by their fathers alone, and all of them have done well. All have good incomes, several went to college, and one is working for his dad's construction company, which dad intends to give his son when he retires. Number 2, by Apprehensive Byte 3153, okay. 58, M, and Permanent Skeptic here. One question: how are you 100% certain the child is yours if you've never been in the same room and no one in your family has met him? Verify the story of her death in the hospital from the death certificate. It's a public record, and maternal deaths of women under 30 are extremely rare in hospitals, almost as rare as women who carry a baby to term without ever telling the father she is pregnant. There would almost certainly have been an inquest, although those records are almost certainly not available to the public. Just to get the inquest records if nothing else, hire an ambulance-chasing lawyer to look into the mother's death for any indication of medical malpractice, 400,000 deaths per year in the US alone. If nothing else, the hospital is likely to offer $75,000 to $100,000 just to settle the case out of court, leaving you with all the information at some point down the road and $50,000 to $60,000 in a college fund, the settlement less the attorney's 30%. You might have to pay the lawyer a few thousand just to get the ball rolling, but that should be credited against any percentage the lawyer gets from settlement if you choose to advance the case beyond getting the information you need. Get a copy of the birth certificate, again, public records, and have your own DNA testing done, usually takes at least 2 weeks. Until that is done, do not acknowledge him as your son, never take physical custody, only visits with the grandparents, and do not tell your family until you are truly 100% certain according to testing you arranged. In any case, if you are not named as father on that birth certificate, you will need DNA proof to establish your parental rights going forward. They don't let just anyone register kids for daycare, insurance, school, social security, etc., etc., etc. If the grandparents balk at bringing the child in for additional testing, listen to those hairs on the back of your head. Any resistance in that regard is telling you far more than any remote testing they arranged ever could. After all that is done to your complete satisfaction, then please accept my congratulations. Children are time-consuming and need a lot of attention, but that is probably better for you than whatever you've been doing with your free time to this point anyway. After a year or so of being, first and foremost, a doting father, you won't miss whatever you left behind to be just that. Update: my ex-girlfriend passed, her family barely contacts me that she had a baby. All the info and advice you guys gave in my original post meant a lot to me, so thanks for that. Some of you wanted an update. What can I say? Shit's been chaotic. Finally met my son and that was just a truckload of emotions hitting me all at once. Wasn't expecting it. My ex's mom had to take him for a minute because I was literally sobbing. It wasn't because I didn't want to be his dad or anything. It's one of those moments where everything hits you at once and only thing you can do is cry. She understood it though and she cried with me. She's a sweet lady. One of those ladies that treats everyone like her child because of how caring she is. My son has my ex's nose and the shape of her eyes. That's what hit me more. Just because we broke up for the meantime while I was at my dad's didn't mean I stopped being in love with her. And now we have a baby together, only she won't get to be here to share that family experience and I miss her so much. Got to hold my son, introduce myself to him. Me and her mom talked about the custody stuff, already got a lawyer for that to make the process easier, so everyone's on the same page. They let me stay over, talked more about my ex, had a few beers with her dad. I stayed at their house a few days because honestly I was still terrified of being left alone with my son because I had no clue what the hell to do with him. They were both really kind and patient about showing me how to change his diapers, feedings, how to give him a bath, rock him to sleep, how to install the damn fucking car seat in my car without throwing it on the floor. Her parents were nice enough to let me spend the night, so every time he woke up I'd be there either to watch her how she does everything, then I started doing it. He's been with me almost 2 weeks at my place. Got mostly all his stuff with me. Looking for a 2-bedroom, but for now he's sleeping in his bassinet in my room. It's been really hard. Especially the first night I probably called her mom like 5 times within 2 hours because he would not stop crying. Then his pediatrician because I'm freaking out something might be wrong with him. Calming him down whenever he got fussy was my weak spot. Nothing I tried was working. Singing to him seemed to help a lot, walking around my apartment and rocking him nonstop. It's still not easy, at least now I'm feeling more confident that I can handle the crying and not freak out enough to call for help. Taking time off from work again so I can be here with him full time. I'm tired, stressed, still got a lot going on emotionally. But I'm also just happy when I'm holding him or making him smile. Honestly, the little stuff he does, even his cute little sneezes, makes me love him even more. Seems like he's starting to like me too. Almost everyone in my family has met him on Zoom, my mom's come over to see him. She's offering to do babysitting once I go back to work in another few months, so that's one less thing to worry about. I just wish my dad would have had the chance to meet him. I know they would have been best friends and he'd definitely spoil my son so much. And it's like my ex knew that too. So didn't know this until her parents gave me his birth certificate, but my ex wanted his middle name to be my dad's, so that was a nice surprise for me. That he's got his grandpa's name too. I'm slowly adjusting to this new life. Not easy, he makes it worth it. I want to be his dad and give him the best I can the way my dad did with me.
Boyfriend, M21, called me a bitch in front of my family, but no one believes me when I say he's not a bad person. I've been with my boyfriend for 1 year, but we've been friends for a long time. My boyfriend grew up in a horrible house, and really traumatic things have happened to him. I come from a pretty traditional family, so we're like the complete opposite in that regard. He started going to therapy 3 months ago. He doesn't like to speak about it, but I think it's worse than I thought. He slept over at my parents' house the other day. In the middle of the night, I had shaken him so he could move and he started yelling, but he was still sleeping, if that makes sense. He yelled, "Get off of me, you stupid bitch," twice really loud, and I kept trying to wake him up. It seemed like we were arguing, but I was honestly trying to wake him up so he could realize he was safe. He had to leave, and now my family hates him. I want to explain what really happened, but my boyfriend doesn't want that. He views his trauma as embarrassing. It's rare that he's ever like this, and they did like him before. What do I do? Comments. Number 1, by Sassy Devant. Okay, I don't know if this will help, but I'm hoping so. My husband grew up in an appalling household. He was subjected to every kind of abuse you can think of, including his mother giving him to her drug dealer for the night when she didn't have money. He was 3. Unsurprisingly, he has CPTSD as a result. I'm going out on a limb to say that your boyfriend has the same. He's going to need a lot of help and understanding. But no one can understand if they don't know. My husband still occasionally has nightmares which have him grab me. As soon as I speak, he wakes up and is so apologetic, but I know full well he didn't mean it. The thing is, my family know he had a crap life. They don't know, ask the details, but they know enough, and I have to tell you, they all absolutely adore him. No one will think less of your BF for what he went though, but they will judge him if he's reacting to his PTSD without knowing he has it. All your family knows is that he screamed at you that you're a bitch, and just saying he had a nightmare won't cut it. They need to understand. Your BF has nothing to be ashamed of. He has survived an horrific upbringing, and is getting help to deal with it. If anything, he should be proud of himself for knowing he needs help and getting it. My husband didn't. When I first met him, he was an alcoholic and took drugs to block out the memories. It took years of therapy from me. I'm a psychotherapist and PTSD counselor, as he just couldn't find a counselor he trusted, and I do not recommend it. You can't take on that role, especially without knowing how to help. But now, my husband is the most incredibly wonderful person, hadn't touched a drop in years, and won't go near drugs. Frankly, my family, if we broke up, not going to happen, would keep him and chuck me, they love him so much. As hard as it is, your family need to understand what your BF has gone through, not the details, but the basics. If you ever need to talk, please don't hesitate to give me a shout. I fully understand what you're both going through. Number 2, by 50 Candles. I guess I really don't understand why everyone is tiptoeing around this situation so much. Why can't you explain to your parents that he had a nightmare, and if they ask what it was about, which is really none of their business, you simply say he'd rather not talk about it, but that you care about him, and that they need to trust you. Reply from Musicist Prominent.
I agree. I think she should just tell them he was having a nightmare and he was still asleep when he said that. The trauma he went through isn't their business, so there's no need to provide them with details because he isn't comfortable talking about it. I understand trauma firsthand, so I know how it can be embarrassing and difficult to talk about. They should let you explain and not jump to conclusions.
Reply from Wholesome Dust.
I think that if you have never grown up with a similar experience or have some connection to a relationship like that, it's hard to understand that there's stuff living in the back of someone's mind that comes out, and honestly it could have been a teddy bear that woke him up, it would have been the same reaction.
So yes, they should trust OP, but also if you've never been there, it's hard to grasp. I think OP needs to just talk to BF about letting her family know that there's trauma, and it's really bad, and it had nothing to do with OP. No, it's not their business, but the BF has no reason to be embarrassed, and OP's family is just being protective. Number 3, by Skvigila. I had trauma as a child, and I had night terrors for many years, not often at all now after years of therapy. The thing is, while I always knew my night terrors were related to trauma, I often had no clue what a particular one was about as soon as I'd awoken from it, and many people with no history of trauma also have night terrors. It's good that your boyfriend is in therapy, because even though he needs to keep this private right now, abuse from the past has a way of working its way into many facets of your life. The unearned shame that accompanies it is often powerful enough to keep victims silent despite being perceived negatively because of their actions related to trauma, whether it be coldness, standoffishness, nightmares, outbursts, etc. The list is really endless. Over time, I've come to be somewhat open about behaviors that others find weird, even though I'm not specific unless it's someone close to me. I'm not trying to be rude, but I'm uncomfortable with that kind of touch and so on. It's very likely that your parents are iffy on what happened because they feel like you're hiding something, which you are, your boyfriend's past, even though that's perfectly understandable. This isn't an easy situation. The best solution would be to tell them that he suffers from night terrors related to past trauma, that he doesn't feel comfortable about you discussing with them. But that's only if he agrees to that. You might talk to him about the fact that if you can't at least explain that, it's going to damage your relationship with your family. If he's still insistent, you have to respect his boundaries, but you also need to understand that this might turn into a him versus them situation, for really no reason, and you might have to make that choice. I wish I had a definitive solution, but there isn't one. It may ultimately come to some very difficult choices on your part. Good luck to you.
My entire family despises my fiancée and I have to choose between them and her. Is there something I am not seeing here, and is my fiancé manipulating me? I met my fiancée when I was at a very low point in my life. We instantly clicked and had a whirlwind romance. I proposed after 3 months and we are now engaged. I feel like my family has never approved of her or particularly liked her. They are all very educated and work professional jobs, while she is a college dropout who works as a hostess. She is starting a venture of her own and I am funding it for her. The problem started with my sister-in-law and my brother. They told me that 3 months was too quick and that I should date her for longer. They have also implied that she is a gold digger. They never used the term. They said this because she doesn't financially contribute. My fiancé isn't particularly fond of my Sil. Sil is very rich and successful and fiancé thinks that she is snobbish. The problem escalated when there was a family wedding and my fiancé wasn't invited. She is of a different race, so she accused my family of being racist and said this to my parents' face. My parents never expressed an opinion about her, but that was their ticking point. My Sil and brother added to this, and told them about my financial contributions to her ventures and other details about her relationship. My parents said that I am making the wrong decision. I told my fiancée this and she lashed out. She messaged my Sil and told her that she is a horrible person for trying to wreck our relationship. My Sil once again communicated this to my parents, and they have refused to pay for and attend the wedding. My fiancée says that her family will accept me with open arms, and that we can get married in City Hall. She accused my parents of being elitist and said that they only like my Sil because she's educated and of the same race. I love my fiancée, but I feel like she's trying to manipulate me into cutting all ties. I don't know what to do, and I don't want to reach a point of no return with my family. Any advice will be appreciated. Comments. Number 1, by LCBAD55100. Think about it this way, mate, if you're fired from 10 jobs, the common denominator is you. There's no way you're an amazing person and all 10 jobs were run by horrible racists. You've known your family your whole life. They love and want the best for you. If not one person likes her, what does that say? If a single family member didn't like her, that's fine. You can't please everyone. But all of them. Think about it, every time you come to her with a concern, instead of addressing it, she attacks you. Your family are all elitist and racist. She's done nothing wrong. Cough, didn't she attack your Sil? She won't respond to questions about things moving too fast. She attacks you for having doubts. She met you at a low point and yes, she's manipulating you. If she wasn't, what's the rush? Why isn't she contributing financially? Doesn't she want to be a team? Mate, she is taking, while isolating you from your family. Because once you're married, she gets half. She could even sue for spousal support. And that's if she ever divorced you. More like, she'd mooch off you forever while attacking you every time you voice an opinion or concern, until she wears you and your self-esteem down. And you'll be cut off from family and friends who could help you. It's bad. Very bad. Listen to your family. There's no way every one of them is a horrible racist who magically can't see how wonderful and amazing she is. No mate, the one who's blinded here is you. Update, my entire family despises my fiancée and I have to choose between them and her. Is she manipulating me and is there something I'm not seeing? Well, we broke up. A lot of the comments echoed what my family was saying, but the outside perspective drilled it into my head. I have a good relationship with my parents and my Sil is actually one of my best friends. Just to clarify from the previous post, I've never thought they were racist or snobbish, it was an idea my ex was forcing into my head. The breakup was very messy. I told her that I thought we were going too fast and that it wasn't working out, and she began crying and implied that she would kill herself. I could see the manipulation clearly for the first time and I just told her that it is above my pay grade and that she should seek professional help for this. Now for all the money I invested in her business. Well, it was a mistake and I'm just considering it a sunk cost. It did hurt my pockets, but recovering it will just tangle more webs. Thank you so much for all the advice, it helped me avoid a grave mistake. Comments. Number 1, by Jonasicast, and I just told her that it is above my pay grade. Damn son, that's savage, but I like it. You didn't just dodge a bullet here, mate. You dodged 30 years of marital tyranny. If the price of that lesson was a few grand in her bank, I'd say that was well worth it. In the future, take it slow and introduce your fam to the new missus, you probs already know that LOL. Good luck mate, and one last tip from Winston Churchill. Don't stick your dick in crazy.